If you've been firing off dozens of resumes every week only to be met with total silence, I want you to stop for a second. Take a breath. I know exactly how that feels. That heavy, sinking sensation when you check your inbox and it's just nothing, or worse, those automated thank you for your interest emails that arrive 3 minutes after you hit submit. You aren't failing. You're just playing a game that ended 6 months ago. I've been in this industry for 15 years. I've seen the booms, the busts, and the pivots. But what's happening right now is different. We're seeing a 400% increase in resume volume in sectors like tech and finance. 400%. That's not because there are 4 times as many people looking for work. It's because AI automated application tools have turned the job market into a high-speed lottery. When I first saw this data from Gartner, it honestly changed how I think about the whole thing. If everyone is using AI to apply to 500 jobs a day, the value of an application drops to 0. In fact, 73% of job seekers now suspect their applications are being blocked by ghost AI filters before a human ever even sees their name. Let that number sit for a second. Nearly 3/4 of you feel like you're shouting into a void. And the truth is, you're right. You're caught in the high-volume ghosting trap. You're trying to win by doing more. But in a world of infinite AI noise, more is exactly what gets you ignored. So if the old strategy of volume is actually what's getting you rejected, what is the hidden machinery that's really deciding who gets through? Here's the part that surprised me when I sat down with a group of recruiters last month. I asked them, what are you actually looking for when the screen is full of perfect AI-optimized resumes? One of them leaned back and said something I'll never forget: efficiency is the enemy of trust. In 2026, we don't hire for speed. We hire for the human friction that prevents catastrophic mistakes. See, 83% of major corporations are now using AI for automated resume screening. They have to. They're drowning. But they aren't just looking for keywords anymore. They are actively hunting for what we call work slop, that generic, perfectly polished, AI-generated output that lacks any real soul or strategic depth. 70% of employers now use or plan to use auto-rejection systems for candidates who look too efficient. It sounds like a contradiction, doesn't it? We've spent our whole careers trying to be faster, leaner, and more productive. But now, the faster you work, the less a recruiter trusts you. They're terrified that if they hire someone who relies solely on AI speed, they're going to end up with an employee who lets an AI hallucination slip through into a multi-million-dollar contract or a legal filing. They aren't looking for a prompter. They're looking for someone who has the guts to slow down and say, wait, the AI is wrong here. Here's where it gets really interesting. The roles that used to be easy, the entry-level analysis, the basic drafting, the routine coding, those are being purged. They're being replaced by something much more valuable. But if recruiters are actively hunting for human friction instead of speed, what does that look like in practice for the people who are actually landing those $350 roles? I want to tell you about a group of people I call the effort architects. These are the professionals who realized, before anyone else, that being the person who checks the AI is worth 3 times more than being the person who prompts the AI. Take the HITL managers, human in the loop. I've seen project managers who were about to be laid off pivot into designing AI-certified workflows. They aren't doing the tasks anymore. They are designing the safety nets. These roles are pulling in base salaries of $211,000 and up. Then there are the AI legal verification specialists. I know a few senior attorneys who stopped drafting briefs entirely. Instead, they certify the logic, they own the liability, because even if an AI is 90% accurate, that 10% hallucination gap is where the lawsuits live. By being the human who signs their name and says, I verified this, they've maintained and in some cases increased their $300,000 plus compensation packages. These specialists aren't just smarter or faster. They've identified a massive gap in the market. They stopped trying to compete with the machine and started acting as the machine's conductor. Honestly, this is the part most people get wrong. They think they need to learn 10 new AI tools to stay relevant. But the tools are a commodity. Anyone can buy a subscription. What you can't buy is the judgment to know when the tool is failing. These effort architects are winners because they intentionally added back the difficulty. They added the reasoning, the ethical stress testing, and the logic that a machine simply can't simulate. They moved from doing the work to conducting the logic. And that 10% gap, that's exactly where your new career lives. Let's talk about that 10% gap for a moment, because it's the most important number in your career right now. Even the most advanced AI legal tools at Stanford are showing about 90% accuracy. That sounds great, right? In school, a 90 is an A, but in the corporate world, a 10% failure rate is a disaster. If a self-driving car is right 90% of the time, you don't have a car, you have a death trap. AI can do the work, but it cannot own the liability. It cannot go to court. It cannot lose its reputation. It cannot feel the weight of a bad decision. That 10% gap, the hallucination gap, is where your value as a human being is concentrated. When I look at the data, the employees in human-first AI organizations, companies that prioritize human oversight, have 1.5 times higher performance scores than those in efficiency-first firms. Why? Because they aren't just producing content, they're producing trust, and the market is rewarding this. There is currently a 56% wage premium for AI-skilled professionals who understand how to bridge this gap. If you can prove that you are the person who closes that 10% window of error, you aren't just another candidate. You're an insurance policy for the company. Now, this is the part that changes everything. You don't need to be a data scientist to do this. You just need to be the person who owns the outcome. Now that you see the new map of the market, how do you actually start moving toward these elite roles this afternoon? Look, I know this is a lot to take in, and I know that if you've been out of work for a while, 6 months sounds like an eternity. The average job search for these elite roles now stretches to about 26 weeks. It's a marathon, not a sprint. 73% of employers are adding more interview rounds, averaging 4 to 6 stages, just to make sure you have the operational depth they need. So, here's your 7-day action plan. First, I want you to go to your LinkedIn. Stop listing tools. Stop telling me you're an expert in ChatGPT. Instead, reflect operational depth. Change your bullet points from produced reports using AI to managed AI-generated workflows and verified logic for 100% accuracy. Use the language of the effort architect. Second, prepare what I call a human-only strategic case study. In your next interview, don't just show them the final result. Show them the why. Show them a moment where the AI gave you a garbage answer and explain exactly how you caught it and fixed it. Prove that you are safe to be left alone with an AI agent. Third, start targeting roles that focus on governance, risk, or hit-all workflows. Look for companies that are human first. Stop trying to prove you're fast. Speed is cheap now. Start proving you're safe. This isn't easy. It requires more effort, more thought, and more patience. But the roles aren't disappearing. They're evolving. And for those of you willing to add back that human effort, the rewards have never been higher. You've got this. Now, let's get to work.